right, it's another episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. I am Josue Pavone. He is Cedric Maxwell, emergency podcast. That's why Max is pulled up in his whip somewhere. Were you outside the crib?
Outside, doing a little shopping
right away.
Yeah, doing a little shopping today, for Juneteenth. So I can get you a bunch of hot dogs to put out on the grill to celebrate this wonderful day that Biden has created for us.
Absolutely. Happy Juneteenth, Max. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. Boston Celtics fans are pretty happy at the end of this week because familiar faces coming back. That's Al Horford, traded from the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Kemba Walker. This year's number 16th pick, of course, in the first round. And the Celtics, in return, are also getting Al and getting Moses Brown, which I think is a good deal for the Celtics right now. A good first step in the right direction from the new Celtics president of basketball operations, Brad Stevens. But, Max, what do you think? What do you think about this deal? I mean, to bring back Al, obviously, we knew what Al was before, when he was in Boston. But now he comes back into a new team, a new situation here. How do you feel about it going into, what was it, 24 hours now? 24 hours since the news was announced.
Well, you're not getting the same Al. This is an older player now, but I think he's still very serviceable. What you wanted to do, set picks, locker room presence, I think is good. He can extend the floor by shooting the jump shot. And the best thing I like about Al is he can defend the basketball. So if you can get that from Al, then, you can get 25, 30 minutes a game, I would absolutely love that.
I mean, I just think it's a culture move, right? I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when the Celtics season came to an end. Like, they need to change the culture. And I think when it comes to playing hard-nosed defense and putting forth the right effort that we know this team can put forth, because we saw it in stretches, we just didn't see it consistently throughout the course of the regular season. And then you're going to see a different team. I think Al is that kind of guy who can put forth the right message, but make sure everyone is holding themselves accountable in the defensive end, Max.
You
don't buy it?
Nah. I'm not really buying that. I think
that's who he was, Max. He was that before. He's going to be the same guy now. Well, maybe the numbers won't be the same, but it's not about necessarily the numbers here.
Al did not hold people accountable. And that's one thing I talked about Al, and the fact that he should have been maybe in that position, being a guy who was a leader on this team, who was a star on this team, holding guys more accountable. His voice was not heard. Al came to me several times, Max, what should I do? I said, Al, you need to talk to these guys. And so, Al, I hope that Al's able to do that. He has the respect to do that. But will he do that? I think that's a whole nother thing. And now that you have a new coach, will that coach insist that Al is able to do that?
Well, I don't think he's the kind of guy that gets in people's faces. But when he leads by example, when he's anchoring the defense on a night in and night out basis, I think it resonates, Max. That kind of approach is not only something that everyone wants to see and leads by example, everyone's going to follow, but it's almost like someone like Robert Williams is never going to forget Al Horford. I mean, he talked about that at media day before the start of the season, how he was a mentor to him, how, behind closed doors, that was a guy that made sure that he was always doing all right. Obviously when he was drafted, all the time Lord Jones, I mean, he got that nickname for the wrong reasons, right? And Al Horford immediately stepped in there and was a mentor to him. So now you see him 2 years later. Obviously, Robert Williams is a much better player at this point, but at least you have Al to help him through these stages here, through this crucial season, especially this crucial offseason, this transition into essentially a new era, right? A new head coach is going to come in here sooner or later. And if you ask me, I think someone like Jason Tatum probably had a say in this, or at least if he was asked about it, said, you know what? Yeah, I would love to see Al back in the team. He's another guy who said that the media day after Al Horford left, he was like, man, Al Horford's one of my favorite teammates. That was a young Jason Tatum. We're 2 years removed from that, but I would love to see what happens, how he can make him a better player, of course, and the rest of the team.
Well, you and I are going to agree to disagree. I think Al is going to be good for this team, but I think when it comes to being vocal and leading by example, Al will do that. But this team also needs one of these guys, a veteran guy, who's going to get in somebody's face and be vocal and be that guy who's going, damn it, we ain't going to take this. And that's not who Al is as a player. And I respect that. So I don't look for Al to come in and grab people by the throats and say, this is what we're going to do. But if he leads by example, I will be satisfied with that.
Well, let me ask you this, Max. Did Brad pull the trigger too quickly here? I mean, do you think that he could have shop Kemba around a little more? Could he have gotten a better deal than what we're seeing right now? Because some people are saying, well, maybe that out offer, maybe that package deal could have been waiting for you a week or two later down the road. Maybe that was something you do when all the other ones, all the other deals you try to put together strike out.
Too many things going on right now. Take the first thing that's coming. I mean, you're able to unload that contract with Kemba. You've done that. Now you've gotten a pretty good big piece coming back in Al, who can defend the basketball. So why wait? You're talking about let's wait to do this. Let's wait to do that. And that was one of the complaints that everybody had about Danny Ainge. Oh, right. Danny has all these draft picks. He's not using them. He's not. Well, Brad Stevens came in and immediately used some leverage and went in and made a deal. And for the most part, I think people are happy about it. I'm probably sure Kemba's not happy about it because he loved his team. He loved this organization. And let's say this about him. Perfect player, perfect gentleman. It did not work out for him physically because Kemba started to wane with his body, not being able to play every day and not give a contribution like that. But I enjoyed Kemba as a player. I enjoyed him as a person. And what he did for this team, I think you can't measure it in words.
What happens next, Max? Who's going to be the point guard of this team? Do you give the keys to Marcus Smart to lead this offense? Do you look for a secondary point guard to come in here? I mean, either way, they're a little thin back there in that backcourt. How does Brad Stevens address that?
Point guards, I think, are easier to get in this league. So you'll see guys like Reggie Jackson's out there in the world. You'll see.
You see that boy last night? You see the Clippers last night? We'll get into that later.
Yeah,
man.
The bigs are harder to get. So I think a point guard in this league, there are a lot of guys out there who, still want to play. You think about Isaiah Thomas, who wants to play. I don't know if you want him back as a starter, but I think he could give you quality minutes. So there's a lot of guys you can get who are point guards in this league before you get guys who are big. So I think that will address itself in due time.
What about Rajon Rondo? I know we talk about this, it seems like every summer, but like this time, I mean, he's getting DMPs now. The Clippers aren't even putting in games at this point in this series.
Well, do you want Rondo for the future of your team? And I think what you're looking for is some guys who are going to help you with your future, who are going to be here long term. If you look at Rondo right now, I think he could come in and do the job, but he's only going to be a 1 year, maybe 2 years at best, a guy who's going to be around. So I think you want to invest in a guy who's going to be around and who's going to grow with Tatum, who's going to grow with Brown. So there's a lot of different things going to happen. You have some more flexibility under the salary cap because maybe Kemba's gone. So there's some things I think you're able to do. And, free agents out there who you could possibly grab and hold on to.
So with this trade going down, obviously the other part of this is Moses Brown. And, for the Celtics to give up a first-round pick, maybe everyone is not crazy about that. Maybe they're thinking that this deal could have been made without the first-round pick. But the way I see it is that first-round pick, if it's Moses Brown, I mean, I'm almost surprised that the Thunder put him in this deal, right? I mean, I'm not surprised that they shopped him, but I'm just kind of like, if you're the Celtics, I don't see a trade that you get more value for Kemba Walker than this. I mean, you get a young prospect who's 23 years old, who's shown potential this season. I mean, he slapped 9 blocks, grabbed 19 rebounds in one half against the Celtics. So they know better than anybody that this guy has not only potential, but he can ball, on any given night. How do you feel about someone like that coming in when you have Robert Williams essentially playing that same role?
Well, the thing I like about the stats you gave me, but that was a one-off. When you think about those number of rebounds he was able to get, he had 19 rebounds in one half and only got 4 more for the game. Something's going on there. I think he is he's physically.
The numbers are skewed, right? At that time, they were taking away.
But he's a big guy. He can do a lot of different things. But I just want to, again, just be more cognizant of what this team has and what are the next moves right now. And the most important move right now is the coaching carousel. Who's going to be that guy who's going to come in and do the job as a coach? I don't think that you can talk about all these other things right now But until you go out and get the guy who's going to coach your team and knowing what kind of players he wants in that system, that is the most important thing the Celtics have to do.
Who are some of the new names that you like, or has anything changed in your opinion? Who's your favorite candidate right now?
Well, my favorite is Chauncey Billups. The guy that nobody talks about is Mark Jackson. But here's I'm gonna throw you a dark horse. I'm gonna throw you a name out there that nobody's talked about. And
Udoka?
No, not
I like him.
I'm gonna go with a former Celtic who was around, who coached for a while. And
Ricardo?
The coach has. I'm gonna do the again. The coach has to be black. I know this is one of these things where we're gonna guess back and forth. But Brian Shaw is a guy that nobody's talked about, that is coached on a high level, that played with the Celtics, that has the intellect. He's dealt with Kobe Bryant when he was in Young Stars early on in LA. So he's another a name that people haven't talked about that could be out there. And the only reason I say that the coach has to be of color is because of the situation that happened with Brad. That you've heard me talk about this before, saying that this team needs some people of color, and especially upper management. Well, you decided that you wanted to, the Celtics decided they wanted to hire Brad. And I'm okay with that because as an owner of a team, I think you should be able to get a choice of, who you want to, direct your team. I like that. But by doing that and not making it public and not giving other black candidates an opportunity to show themselves, that puts them more in the pickle to say, okay, we got to now hire a coach of color. Now, here's the thing that could be crazy. And this is the crazy one. Carol Lawson, can she be that person? I mean, what's the biggest impact you can make as a coach if you're the Boston Celtics right now? Black woman?
That would be a huge statement.
Huge.
Yeah.
And it would mask anything you would do. It'd give you a year or two really to get your team together, because the conversation and the narrative would be about her as a coach, not necessarily about how your team is doing.
Did you hear what Jaylen Brown put up on his Twitter earlier this week?
I did not.
So Jaylen Brown, and I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm going to pull it up right now. Jaylen Brown tweeted out analytics, and he wrote 7 NBA teams are remaining. 4 are led by African-American head coaches. They just left it at that.
I remember reading that. I like the fact. I like his stance. And Jaylen has been so vocal about Black Lives Matter and about Black issues. So I could see him being a guy who would speak about this team in that way. And I like it. I love his stance on that. I believe that the coach is going to be a person of color. Now, it could be a female, but I think the person is going to be of color.
It's interesting. It's been reported that Jason Tatum is going to do the Olympics, going to join Team USA. And I would love to hear, and I know he's going through injuries now, he's going to work his way through, and he should be good to go by the start of the regular season. But I would love to hear Jaylen Brown do the same thing. You know how I feel about these two, and I would love for them to bond more and get more time. Or maybe if it takes being away from the team and being at a competitive level together, but in a different situation, maybe that helps them, in terms of advancing and helping that friendship blossom into something that they know is going to make the team better, or make their teammates better, rather. Or call it a recruitment trip, Max. I mean, in a year or two, if there's a free agent out there and the books are cleared and the Celtics are back again in the market for a top tier free agent, you want to market yourself to a point where guys say, you know what? Not only can those two play well individually, but look how well they play together. I'm the missing piece for those guys. You know what? Let me call my agent. I want to go to Boston. Let's start a big three. That's how it works, Max. In my opinion, right? That's how it works. Kevin Durant did the Warriors. He went there because he knew he was getting himself into. Like, you want to make your situation look as attractive as possible. Being a 500 team in the Eastern Conference, that's not it. That's not going to do it.
I had not thought of that, and I think that's brilliant on your part of saying it as a recruitment tool, of being in the Olympics, talking about your team, showing guys who you are as a player. I hadn't thought about that. Now, our guy Nick Joso, our Grand Pooba, he is
What up,
so
Nick?
far. He is so far against this of just saying that Tatum in the Olympics. No, and
He's
part
afraid
of
he's
it.
gonna get
Well,
hurt. That's what.
no. Part of this I understand too. What he's saying is also not necessarily hurt, but just resting your body. Here's a guy who came off of COVID. And you came off of COVID, you don't know, he's told us how it's affected him. And you'll know, again, the long-term effects on it. But I think he needs time to heal his body. So this would be a 3-4 month rest period where you can kind of get yourself back in mentally together to get ready to play instead of dealing with the pressures of going to the Olympics and then jumping right back into the season again. I don't care who it is, and I have to agree with him on that point. Yeah, I would love to win an Olympic medal. What is more important to you right now? Getting prepared for to win a world championship or to win an Olympic medal. And to me, I think he has to answer that. But if I'm looking at it as a player and as a great player, LeBron James talked about it, the shortened season, and you could look at it, all the guys who got hurt and all the top teams who did not get to the finals this year because of, just lack of rest. So in that terms, I would have to agree with Nick Joso in the fact that he would say, yeah, maybe this is a time for Tatum or Brown to rest their body.
A lot of people were talking about the bubbles, the 2020 playoffs. It's the winner of that. Do they get an asterisk next to their name? And you said, they should get 2 championships for what they did because it was that much more difficult. What about this year, though? No one talks about that this year, right? I mean, maybe now people are starting to talk about it because they're seeing all these injuries pile up and the Lakers get bounced out of the first round, LeBron James going home early. People aren't used to seeing that kind of thing, right? But
yeah,
the winner of this, some people might put an asterisk next to their name and say, you know what, man? The Suns, they battled a team that was tore up. Whether it was I was gonna say Al Jefferson, whether it was Anthony Davis or LeBron James, you can go down the list of how many teams are rattled with injuries. Like whoever wins this, don't get me wrong, this has been a heck of a playoffs regardless. We're seeing some great basketball, but it's you can't ignore the fact that a lot of teams are missing their best guys.
Yeah, you miss your best guys who are hurt, and that's I think we talk about resting your body. But at the same time, I think it's more amazing that they got through the season. Remember early in the season where you would have teams would have 8 players or 7 players and COVID protocol and all those things went along. Teams were playing like 1 game every 2 weeks and they were able to get back and complete the season. That to me was huge. And now getting back and starting to have fans in your building, I'm taking nothing away from this season. Again, I'm giving it maybe another star.
All right, let's wrap up with this one. Atlanta Hawks, man, they had themselves a golden opportunity to knock off the Philadelphia 76ers and punch their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they didn't get it done. Offense, what was it? Just dried up, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it, but regardless, we got a Game 7, Sixers, Hawks. We'll squeeze in a little NBA playoffs here before we wrap up. Give me a prediction, Max. Who wins this? Is this
Sixers
it?
win.
Is Philly gonna take this one home?
Sixers win it. And here's the thing about it. Dude, that's Atlanta. That is Atlanta. What was the score against the
did you see what they did though? Hold on, real quick though.
What?
Yeah, it was 2 minutes left. Trae Young just hit a huge three with 0 seconds left on the shot clock. And after a timeout, the lights just mysteriously went out. Like the lights just went out.
It's Atlanta, man. What are you talking about? Every time you see an Atlanta team, something always crazy happens.
No, I don't know, man. That one's a little sus, though. That's suspect, man.
I mean, okay,
they're trying to cool off. They're trying to cool off the Sixers, man.
Wait a minute. You remember again? What was the score in that game against the Patriots? 28-3.
That's right.
28-3, and
that
lost
also
the game.
In Atlanta. That's right.
That was Atlanta. So, I'm not sure if Atlanta has a curse or whatever it is, but I just think that the way they play, I think they play. If the threes aren't falling, then they get themselves in trouble because they don't have the thing that Philly has. They have that one guy, Joel Embiid that nobody can stop. He gets on the box, and he's a guy who's going. And what happens? Normally, the game slows down in playoffs. And when it slows down, you have to have that consistent guy who's in the paint. And Joel Embiid is that consistent guy that can be in the paint there's not an Atlanta Hawk out there that can even think about guarding Joel Embiid. And that's a Joel Embiid like on maybe a leg and a half. So I think again that the Doc Rivers and his team, they get it done.
All right. Well, what do you think about what do you call it? What was I going to say? The other side, right? You have the Clippers up against the Utah Jazz. The Clippers, man, another historic come from behind win. This one wraps up the series, but it wasn't just about the stars doing it, right? Because of course they had to do this without Kawhi Leonard. They did it with Paul George doing his thing with 28 points. But shout out to Terrence Mann. This guy had himself a night, man. 39 points. This is 6 3-pointers. He said that he wasn't even sure after the game how many points he had, because he said the last time I looked, I was at like 36, man. I was 2 in the zone. What a performance. For the first time in 30 years, the Los Angeles Clippers are going to the Western Conference Finals. Max, what do you think?
Somebody told me today that talking to Rick Mahorn, my buddy who used to play with Detroit, he was talking. He said, "Yeah, maybe LA's fans, they shouldn't get so excited." I was like, "Those are Clipper fans. They should be as excited as hell. They should celebrate because they've never been that far. I mean,
Right.
They've had some teams in the past that were really good teams that didn't make it. The Blake Griffin's teams like that, and Paul George's team, and they did it without one of their best players in Kawhi Leonard. So they're a team that, to me, I'm not sure if they can win it unless Kawhi comes back, and I'm not sure what the injury is, but if Kawhi Kawhi doesn't come back, it's going to be mighty tough for them to win it, and to pull it out in that way. They Paul George probably now, and we can say it, he's finally kind of got the monkey off his back, because everybody said that he was the Paul George that was going to collapse almost in every one of these games, and yeah, you said that about him. So let's look at it in a way like that. So
man,
can they win it?
It was one Terrence Mann away from collapsing again, man. Terrence Mann had to come through and save that ass.
Somebody has to be always the star coming through on the other side. It has to be that secondary player that nobody really looks at and notices. And all of a sudden that guy comes in huge, and he was able to knock down shots. And if you are right now Salt Lake City, what are you saying? You are by 25 points. So
25 points, man.
Who
Snyder was beside himself, to say the least.
Who have you got to blame other than yourself?
Yeah. Could that be another coaching vacancy right there?
No, I think Quinn Snyder is going to be good. I think in his position, he's going to be good. But it's just really strange that all these coaches are out there right now without jobs. And I think there's going to be so much movement. I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Ainge isn't in somebody's front office within the next year. But
really?
I think he's
going to get that itch?
Yeah, I think he will. And I think he'll go out west.
All right, last question, Max. What's the best? Give me the top three. The best top three coaching vacancies right now in the NBA.
Wow, New Orleans is a hell of a coaching spot when you talk about Zion being down there.
Right. People talk about Portland, but I'm like, man, New Orleans is pretty good.
Dallas has to be huge because you're talking about one of the best players right now in Luka Doncic out there, in a position that people want to see him. And
I still put Boston number 3, though.
I'm going to go with Boston. I'm going to go with Boston because of Tatum and Brown and the kind of players they have right now. And it's a wide open system. I look at those as those to be in my top 3 spots.
So you're saying Boston number 1?
No. Me number 1.
The other way. Okay.
Number 1 would probably be New Orleans. Then I'd say Dallas, and then Boston number 3.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You know what? I'll probably go the same way. I was gonna say New Orleans. Yeah. I'll do the same thing. I'll do New Orleans, Portland, Boston. Yeah, That's it.
Well, I didn't do that. I did New Orleans, Dallas.
I mean, that's what I meant. Sorry. No, yeah. Portland's underneath Boston. Yeah, I put Portland fourth. Right.
Yeah.
All right, Max, that's going to do it for us. I'm Joseph Pavone. He is Cedric Maxwell. Guys, you already know. Subscribe, rate us on iTunes, the Cedric Maxwell Podcast. Subscribe and rate, and we'll be back here next week.
Check us out. Check us out. That's what we're going to go with.
Check us out.
Yeah, because we keep it as real as we can be.
That's right. Always keeping it 100 here.